What? Bubsy 4D, what the hell do you mean? Your favorite franchise is dead, and Bubsy is still here getting new games. Cry about it. How did this even happen? How is this possible? Well, in 2023, Atari, yeah, they're still around, started acquiring a bunch of franchises and got the Bubsy franchise and started accepting Bubsy game pitches from indie game developers. A very long story short, because Atari's history is long, what the hell? But Atari has mostly become a company that hands out the IPs they own to game companies around the world to make games for them, which I can appreciate. It beats all these other companies kind of just sitting on their IPs and doing absolutely nothing with them. Anyway, the Atari CEO encouraged the pitches for Bubsy 4D to be interesting, innovating, and tongue-in-cheek because the last thing they want is another generic platformer, which is a very fair, reasonable thing to ask for when you're making a game, on two counts. For one, Bubsy actually came back twice with two new modern games, but these games are like the definition of generic. So obviously we don't want that again. And the second reason is that, in my opinion, Bubsy is actually a decently mid to somewhat high profile franchise. Not like the highest ever, of course, but it's still pretty decent. A lot of people who are into games and browse the internet know what a Bubsy is because of YouTubers just kind of going, I only played 5 seconds of this game and I want to kill Bubsy and then kill myself. Stuff like this generated tons of memes online and notoriety to the franchise, and a lot of people know who the character is because of that. And I actually think if those videos weren't made, this game might have not even happened, because Bubsy probably would have just been completely forgotten. So even though the reputation of this franchise is horrible, making a good game out of a franchise that is popular because of how bad it is isn't actually a bad idea. Also, it's really funny to do, and we appreciate that mindset here. After seeing a few pitches, they land with the developer Fabraz, who developed Demon Turf and Demon Tides, which I actually haven't played yet, but I'll get there, because those games do look fun. From an interview I can't find anymore that I'm going off memory of, we do really good research on this channel, by the way. One of the strongest reasons I believe they got picked for Bubsy is they wanted to go into this franchise celebrating the IP and make an honest, good game, rather than the kind of Bubsy game where you just hear them go on about and say something like, hey, my name's Bubsy, remember me? My games suck. Do you remember that they're bad? My games suck. That's right. They're horrible. My games suck. It's kind of like what Sonic was doing on Twitter years ago, honestly, which was horrible. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to treat this IP with respect, which is what I think one of the best things they could have done. And in my opinion, they succeeded in doing. On August 19th, 2025, the game was announced to the reception of people kind of just going, what the hell? Wait, this looks good. Then, about a year later, on May 22nd, 2026, the game released to very positive reviews by the people. And I emphasize, by the people. As looking at the very highly regarded critics' reviews, it kind of got mixed reviews. What? You're telling me Bubsy 4D got mixed reviews? Do you know what else got mixed reviews? Bubsy 1, 2, and 3D. What? But forget about them. Critics only matter when we agree with them. So going into the game itself, I could say that Bubsy 4D actually did it. It's not just a good game, it is a great game. A fantastic game. Bubsy is free from his purgatory. And if you couldn't tell from the title of this video, this is not the worst platformer ever made, far from it. But I'm gonna go into what my thoughts on Bubsy 4D are and the positives and the little bit of negatives it has with it. Because I think after such a long time of bashing on the franchise, Bubsy deserves a lot of positives, which is what this game has. So let's just dive straight into it, starting with Bubsy and Friends, the most polarizing thing I see. Though it's more so about Bubsy, because if you take one look at him, you realize that's a furry. Bubsy got a redesign to look more modern, and by that I mean he's a furry. A goddamn furry. I actually like the design. I can understand some people not liking this newer design, as it goes a bit far from what Bubsy usually is. In his past games, he's more designed like a child or an annoying teenager, and acts like that too. But in this game, he's more of an adult, which is why I think I actually appreciate the design, because it works with his brand new personality. Bubsy in this game has gone through a term that I find less and less people online actually know what it means or understands it. It's called growing up. Bubsy is more of a grown-up in this one. Before, in the past games, he would unironically say some of the dumbest shit you've ever heard in your entire life, like a cringy teenager would say. In this one, he still kinda does that, but he's more self-aware about what he says. He'll say something stupid and then end up going, wait a minute, what did I just say? And I like this new personality that Bubsy has a lot. It's pretty charming, though I can understand some people not liking these changes, as it's been almost 30 years since the last Bubsy game, which is terrifying, I know. But if I had a franchise that I actually loved, because believe it or not, there are some people out there that actually love the Bubsy franchise, and it came back with a game after so long and they changed that entire character and his personality, I don't know how I'd react, honestly. But at the end of the day, if you don't like his voice or personality, you could just turn it off or turn down the amount he talked. In the original Bubsy games, there was an issue, quote unquote, that people had where Bubsy wouldn't shut up, but if you actually played them, he doesn't really talk that much in his games. It's the same for this one, really. I had it set to default and he didn't really talk that much. Like, I wasn't annoyed by him at all. But like I said, if you don't like it, you could still just turn it off. And if you turn it off, he gets really sad. And I don't want him to see him sad.
Wait, you're muting me? Seriously, can you not? I worked really hard on this, thank you.
I also see people not liking the clothes he wears. But it's like, there are costumes in the game and you can play with the old outfit anyway. So who cares? Of course, Bubsy isn't the only one that got a new design. Everyone else got new designs as well. The twins Terry and Terry, I didn't realize that's what their names were, they both just look so much better than before, as they were like 80% eyeball before. They were also like pretty much the same character before, if they even had a character. There was barely a character there, honestly. In this one, they both have their own personalities. Oblivia herself looks completely different from the animated pilot she was in, and Virgil looks actually mostly the same with some minor tweaks like the square glasses, and he's wearing a lab coat over his original design. Arnold isn't in this game, though there is a picture of him in the hub world. He's just on a road trip apparently. I thought he died. I can't comment much on the side characters if their personalities are completely different other than the twins, because it's like they didn't really have much of a personality minus the comics and that one pilot, which isn't really a lot to base a character's entire personality off of, but what can you do? The Woolies are also back, which is good because I actually like their designs from the original, but at the end of the day, they're circles. You can't really do much design-wise with that. The actual villains of the game, the Babots, look great and fit the style of the Bubsy franchise very well, but I'll go over them later. The Woolies and the Babots serve as the enemies of this game, which is a minor complaint I have, as it didn't bother me that much, but it's noticeable. The Woolies and the Babots, those are the only two enemies in the game. The Woolies run around and jump at you, and the Babots just fly around and try and shoot at you. That's really it. They do have their variants though. Sometimes there's a bigger woolly that's a bit harder to beat that runs around and tries to jump at you. There's also a flying woolly and like a pink woolly that just stands there and a skateboarding woolly. Wow. And for the Babots, there's the normal one that flies around and just like shoots something at you, and a yellow Babot that shoots something at you but in a shotgun. Wow. Yeah, it's really not much, but the game is short anyway, so it didn't bother me that bad. And at the end of the day, these enemies are like 3D Sonic kind of enemies. They're not threatening at all and are mostly used for platforming, like bouncing off them to get more height, for example. But that's Bubsy and Friends, so let's go into how the game actually looks and some of the levels in the game. If you actually have been looking at the screen and watching the video now, your eyes are still working. So that's a positive compared to the previous Bubsy games where if you looked at them for too long, your eyes would explode. Jokes aside, visually, this game looks very good. It is a very, very colorful game, which is awesome to see. Each world has its own theme, and I think they nailed the atmosphere of them very well. World 1 is a woolly world, so pretty much everything, including the ground, is made out of wool. World 2 is a crafts theme, so you have everything made from arts and crafts, like paper and cutting boards and all that. And World 3 is more of an industrial area with trash and construction sites everywhere. There's even an Atari controller here. It's what it deserves, I guess. I don't think there's anything wrong with how the game looks. I think it looks very colored and very varied. My only complaint I have with the visuals is something that like almost every single modern game does is that there's this fog effect when looking at things from far away. I understand why it's there. It's to hide assets that aren't fully loaded in to make the game run better and potentially look better so players don't see the non-fully loaded assets loaded in. But I never really cared, and I usually just mod them out of the games I play anyway. But at the end of the day, I'm probably one of the only 2 people that actually care about this, especially in like a Bubsy platformer, so who cares? Uh-oh, we got a nitpicker. The game, like I already mentioned, has 3 worlds, all of which have 5 levels on them. And I mentioned them all having a theme, but they're also callbacks to the original Bubsy games, I believe. World 1 feels like a callback to Bubsy 1, where the first world in that game is a town in a mountain, in like a foresty mountain area. Though it's really more towns than mountain. And that's kind of what happens in a lot of the levels in World 1 of this game. World 3 is a construction site, which is what a lot of Bubsy 3D was. And World 2, I don't have a clue at all. But it's my favorite world because it's chill. The overall structure of each level is pretty much the same, which I have already actually seen some complaints about, but I think I disagree a bit. Let me explain. The levels usually starts off in a somewhat large area you can run around and explore in, with branching paths, which then turns into a more linear section that's just basically a hallway. That's basically every level. Sometimes it might mix things up though. Sometimes it goes from an exploration-based area to a hallway back to an exploration-based area, but that's pretty much it. But I think this is also kind of cool because I'm pretty sure this is the throwback to the older Bubsy games, because that's kind of how they went, except they were much worse in the older Bubsy games where the big areas were way too goddamn big and the hallway areas in Bubsy just had so much shit in them. This one doesn't do that. And it's kind of why I disagree with this repetitive level design being a negative, because in this game, there's actual variety inside each of the levels themselves. The stuff you see in the levels won't always be in the same. You will have levels where you race around on fabric to try and beat the clock before your path gets broken because you didn't make it on time. You have levels where you need to flip a switch to make measuring tape come out and then run on it to get to the end as fast as possible. There's a part where you have to run on a giant green piece of wool while avoiding the spikes in order to get a collectible. There's even a level with glue all over the place that you can just stick to.
Techie stuff! This isn't my fate once the internet finds out about this, is it?
What did he say? What I'm trying to say is that you see new things in almost every single level, which to me didn't really make the game feel that samey. It made it felt more varied, which is needed in a platformer. Visually, while the levels in the same world have a similar theme, for example, World 1 is a wool theme, so you'd think every single level in World 1 is going to look the same. It's going to be wool based. They can still look different. Level 1, for example, is a forest made out of wool, while level 4, which takes place on the same world, is a city made out of wool. The difference is there. The change of weather or time of day is also a pretty simple way to change the mood and not make it feel exactly the same, even though you're just kind of changing the lighting. Sometimes the level will take place during a sunset instead of the day, and sometimes there will be a snow level, which I'm pretty sure is asbestos. But what do I know? My hair is made of asbestos. In this entire game, there wasn't really a single level I had issues with in this at all, which is really impressive. But it's time to move on to the gameplay and controls. This is probably one of the best platformers I have ever played for the movement. He controls so well. The controls give you so much freedom of movement that you can interact with the levels in many different ways. You can take the main path the game wants you to take, or find a completely different route to get around the normal path using the movement that is given to Bubsy. These controls allow you to tackle whatever your goal is, like getting over to something you want to collect, in many different ways. So every time you replay the game, it's going to be different. You're not going to get that same collectible the same way, unless it's like super linear, which does happen sometimes in the game, but it's not often. This makes the game very replayable. You can of course move around as Bubsy, like, wow, really? But in total, you have 4 kinds of jumps in this game. That's quite a bit. You can jump, you can double jump, you can glide, which gives you a small boost in the air, and you can dive, which also gives you another small boost in the air. That is in total 4 jumping options, which, like I said, is a lot. However, if you slightly miss a platform, no worries, as you can climb up almost anything in this game for a little bit. You can also pounce to enemies, which is what I mentioned before. It's kind of like Sonic, how you auto-lock onto enemies and then Sonic spin dashes to them. In this, Bubsy pounces to them. Bubsy also has the ability to turn into a ball and roll around a physics-based world, which is super fun to do and kind of required for the time trials later on. It really does make the game feel like Sonic. The devs said they took more inspiration from Monkey Ball actually instead of Sonic, but the Sonic resemblance is still there for me, and it's even appreciated even if it wasn't intentional, because the original Bubsy creator was inspired by Sonic in making the Bubsy franchise, so taking cues from Sonic is like a no-brainer. With all these options, there's just so much freedom to do things in many different ways you want, and that's not even all the controls in the game. Each level has a hidden blueprint in them, which is usually a secret part of the map hidden off, and is more of a challenge part of the level with slightly increased difficulty in order to earn the blueprint. You can redeem these blueprints for even more moves. I'm not going to go through all of these as I didn't really use a single one of them. I maybe used one. I didn't need to use these, but that is cool as the option is there if you want to use them. There is one thing I will say about the movement though. This can put some people off, as I do see some people not being a big fan of this kind of movement where it feels more floaty, as Bubsy feels like he's just floating in the air a lot of the time. Which to me, I didn't really mind at all, but I can see why this platforming style might not be for everyone, as there might be some people out there that prefer a more precise style with more grounded movement rather than a very floating, flying bobcat. But there's nothing really wrong with that at all, it's more of a preference. But I will say, I have heard a lot of people call this game movement slop, and to that I say, what is wrong with you? The only thing about the movement I don't like is that there's fall damage. I'm just kidding, there isn't. But if you fall from a high place, Bubsy does get stunned for a couple seconds due to him just face planting in the ground. Though this is whatever, as you could just turn into a ball or use one of your many other moves before you hit the ground to avoid this even happening. Something I actually struggled with is learning the controls, which could really just be a me thing. Even though there is a great tutorial that shows you everything one at a time, it took me until like the end of World 2 to actually have the basic controls down to a T, because there's just so much. A bit ago I was talking about the blueprints, so let's go a bit more into the collectibles in this game. I usually rate collectibles and platformers like these on how good they are by how edible they look, and unfortunately, the ones in this game do not look that tasty. Jokes aside, the collectibles are back to being yarn, which is good. Almost every other Bubsy game has weird stuff like turning everything into marbles or something. You can actually use the yarn you collect to unlock more costumes, which is very cool. I used this blue suit through most of the playthrough because I liked it. There are 3 kinds of yarn balls in each of the levels. The purple ones, which are worth 1 ball, and the silver ones, which are worth 10. There's also the gold one at the end, but that's the goalpost of the level. It basically just ends the level and is more story related. Other than the yarn balls, you have the blueprints, which, like I said, just give you more moves. I was gonna complain and say it's annoying if you miss 1 yarn ball and you have to run around the entire level again to find the last one, but you get an item finder pretty early on, so no issues there at all for me. This game also has time trials, and oh boy, I wonder what those are for. Each level you'll probably have to play around 1 to 2 times, or if you miss a collectible you have to play the level again another time. But if you want to 100% the game, you have to do the time trials. Once you beat the original level and go back into the level again, a timer will appear. You just have to get to the end before the designated time to get the medal. These are not really that hard, though for some reason I kept losing at level 3 for this. I don't know why. I just kept rolling off the ledge. I died like 10 times here. Why was I so... what happened? Overall though, the game itself isn't really hard, which is a shame because I love platformers becoming more difficult as the game progresses. But this game shines more in its movement rather than having the perfect difficulty spike. But now, let's go over the music. The music in Bubsy 4D is awesome. Take a listen. This music is definitely best in the series by far. It feels like the team was allowed to do mostly whatever they wanted to and have fun with the soundtrack, which I think is the best way to create something. That's what it should all be about. But overall, the music in this game I was really happy with. This game itself also has more content. It has a bonus mode, 9 lives mode, where you play the game with 9 lives, meaning if you get hit 9 times, the save is deleted. I didn't do this. You can also add tank controls to the game, which is really funny because I actually tried doing this, and to my surprise, it wasn't horrible. I could actually control Bubsy. What? I'm gonna be talking about the story now, so obviously skip to the time on the screen if you care about Bubsy spoilers. Anyways, at the start of the game, we see the Woolies kidnap a sheep. Later on in the day, we see the sheep we now know as the Babots steal the golden fleece. Bubsy and crew sneak onto the UFO, basically stealing it and go on their merry way, as they're gonna get the fleece back. We get a broadcast from Barbie, one of the main villains of the game. I just realized now that this cutscene boils down to her calling us losers, and that's the entire call. Why did she call us that?
I like her.
Anyway, the ship is our hub where we can do many things, such as play the tutorial, play in a sandbox to practice moves, you can talk to characters around the ships, you can buy skins and moves from the twins who are basically selling Bubsy's own stuff back to him, which is funny. But this also serves as the level select. Throughout the game and in almost every level, the gang is just sitting around and you can talk to them. They tell you random stuff, like they talk about how Bubsy went to New York one time for some reason. Or they make references to the old games, like Bubsy wondering where the Woolies' boss, Polly and Esther, are, finding out that they're actually on a vacation. Sometimes they will talk about Gex. What? And sometimes they'll actually explain some of the plot to you. And this is all completely optional, which is cool if you don't care about the story, since this is just a platformer at the end of the day. As for the writing itself though, I actually think the characters and what they are very well written. There's a couple of times where they do the, "Do you remember this reference to the old game?" But it's not in your face all the time. It feels correctly placed. It doesn't feel like it's being annoying, which is very impressive on its own because a lot of games that come back after years kind of fail at this. I really enjoyed the writing of this game. I thought it was quite witty and actually funny, which is impressive considering Bubsy is usually like not. You can talk to the enemies as well in this game, such as the Woolies, who straight up tell you the plot. They stole the sheep to get more wool and experimented with them as well. Things went wrong and the sheep became the Babots, which are now in control and use the Woolies as slaves basically. Like I mentioned, each world has 5 levels. The last level in each world, you go face to face with the boss. In this case, it's Barbie. Barbie tells us to F off and the boss fight begins. The boss here has you avoid her in a ball where she rolls at you, leaves a trail of fire, and does this whirlwind thing. You just need to avoid it all. After a bit, a tube pops up and you go into it and you shoot at her via a gold tube. Once done, she runs away super fast, but we are faster. Just crash into her. Something funny I found out, apparently if you crashed into one of the skateboarding Woolies around this arena, your game would just crash. I think it's been fixed though. Anyway, run into the boss 3 times and the boss goes down, or up. We get back to the ship and everyone tells us we just got lucky before getting another broadcast of Barbie saying to the new villain, Bartolomeo, that we bullied her. The kids convince him that Bubsy can beat his ass, so they decide to fight. We get to the boss and it's a big arena, with the boss controlling a giant mech. We need to avoid the lightning balls, punches, and lightning swords he hits us with. We just need to wait for the switch to pop out of his arm, flip it, and then hit the boss. I actually died to this boss, but hit the boss 3 times and he goes down. We get back to the hub and find the kids waiting for another Babot to show up, and one does. This time, it's the leader, Baptiste, where we find the reason the fleece was stolen. It was to rid the world of the organic, which is a future where the inorganic ruled the world without inefficient, natural, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But Bubsy turns off the broadcast mid-sentence anyway. Going into the first level of World 3 and we find the 2 villains we fought before just chilling. I always like villains that can also be passive to the main character when they aren't actively trying to get in their way. I always like that trope. We get to the boss and find out they want to turn Bubsy into one of them. Bubsy, of course, does not want this. Here we fight all 3 bosses at the same time. The boss will shoot lightning beams at you, which you need to jump over, and then also shoot missiles at you, which you need to avoid. Then the floor will fall while the lasers and rockets are shooting at you at the same time. Later, the other bosses, Barbie, will jump in and start to roll around. Avoid them for a while, and then the boss jumps into the arena shooting at you and teleporting all over the place. You just need to pounce on him. Later on, the other boss, Baptiste, will come on the arena and slam on the ground, causing a ground ring you need to jump over. But that's basically the fight, as the last phase is basically everything I've just said cranked up in both speed, and now both bosses are jumping in. There's a decent bit of stuff happening, and I actually did die to this once, but I beat it right after. After, we get a cutscene showing that we got all the fleece back, and Bubsy is exhausted. Bubsy asks for a hug from Oblivia, and she says hell no, ending the game. I don't really like the ending that much. I'm not 100% sure why I feel this way. Maybe just because it just ends kind of abruptly, and Bubsy just gets called awkward. Maybe I feel like there should be a bit more here. I just wasn't fully satisfied with this. But that's fine, as the game of this game satisfied me enough anyway. And we're not even done. If you 100% the game and do all the time trials in the game, you unlock the Gauntlet, the hardest level in the game. It wasn't that hard. I think I died once. It's basically everything you've seen up to this point. Yeah, it wasn't really that hard. I think the difficulty is supposed to come from the super tight platforming required here, along with the threat of if you die, you need to restart it. But you have like 4 jumps, so it's kind of hard to die. Once you complete it all and get 100%, you are presented with the PlayStation X Gold Star Award, given to Bubsy 3D in the lobby. I don't really want that. Time for everyone's favorite thing, negativity. If you just clicked right to this part in the video, you don't have to be so negative. Though, lucky for you, and for me, this is unfortunately a very good game. So sadly, there's not really many negatives, though these are more of opinion-based negatives rather than factual bad things about the game. For example, the world variety is small. There are 3 worlds, so 3 themes, but I mentioned before that each level does have stuff to make it look and play differently from each of them. But I can understand that still might not be enough from some people. Bubsy's design as well, it's more of a furry design. With it, he also looks more older, so some hardcore Bubsy fans might hate this as it's a departure from what Bubsy originally was. For me, I ended up liking this design. I think his new personality fits very well with it. Bubsy is floaty as hell in this, which could turn a lot of people off who prefer tight, precision-based platformers. But I was fine with it, as it works very well with the level design. There's also, like, 2 enemies in the game. They have their variations, but the enemy count is really small. Though at the end of the day, for me, that didn't really bother me too much because there's actually one bad thing about this game, and it's the worst by far that relates to there being not that many enemies. This game is only 15 levels. It's like 2 hours long. It's probably just like an hour if you rush through it. That's really small. So there not being a lot of enemies makes sense considering you're going to be done the game in about 2 hours anyway. Though to be fair, the game is priced at like $20, so it's a fair price for the length of the game you get, really. It's honestly about the same length as every other Bubsy game. If that's good or bad, that's up to you. I don't really have an opinion on it. I thought it was cheap enough and I got my time worth out of it. I just kind of wish there was a bit more. But that's it. Like I said, most of the negatives are more opinion-based rather than fact-based. I don't think anything is horrible. And I honestly don't think that there's really that much wrong with the game itself. The only legitimate actual negative I can think about that's factually kinda bad is that the game is a platformer. Wow, who would have thought? But at the end of the day, it really just is a platformer. There's nothing exciting or new here that makes it amazing or stand out from other platformers. It's really just a platformer. That's it. But that's pretty much the negatives. I honestly can't think of anything that's like super negative about the game. I didn't like the ending, that's really it, but there's like nothing like, I'm impressed. There's not much I hate about this. But yeah, that's pretty much the negatives. Hey, so here's a random part of the video I decided to do. I'm gonna unbox the game I got because I liked it so much I bought a physical copy. Now, the first thing you notice about the game is that this game, it might be the heaviest motherfucker I've ever held in my entire life for a video game. This is so fucking heavy. Give me 1 second. This is Kingdom Hearts on the PS4. Look how big this thing is. This thing is huge. This game is heavier, significantly heavier. I can barely lift it up. It's so difficult to get up. Now, overall, I think it's nice good. The front is glossy. The back is also very glossy. It looks very nice. As you can see on the back there, it includes a manual, art book, and a poster. Very cool. Let's get this open. Why the fuck am I wearing gloves? It's 30 degrees. Okay. I can't get this. There we go. This is also the hardest game to open. I got lucky there, but it's legitimately taken me like 30 minutes to actually open this. So, what do we get in the game? What is in here? What? Okay. So, as it says, you get a poster. Now, this is a cool poster. I can't show the entire thing because camera only has a little bit. There you go. It's the box art. That looks really cool. And then on the back, you have this. The first time I opened it, it showed like this. I thought it was a print up of Bubsy naked. I'm going to be honest. I thought he was just fucking naked. And this was just a pin up of him being completely naked. I think I would have had that on my wall as a bit. I think that would have been funny. But this is still really good art. It's very good. I like it a lot. The whole gang is there. Now, this is actually a pretty good... you can put it on your wall. That way, when you invite a girl over, she can take a look at it and be like, Bubsy, I love Bubsy. Because, you know, girls love Bubsy a lot. Whereas if a guy were to come over, he would say, it's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. We're no longer friends, or I'm not going to go out with you anymore. How'd you like that gender switch up? Normally, it's the girl that comes over and says, ew, nerdy stuff. I don't like it. I don't like it. You're a loser. And how do you like that switch up? Bet you never seen that before on video. Anyway, here's the manual. I actually used this in the video where I talked about Bubsy. It's actually really cool. I like it a lot. It shows a bunch of different design documents and stuff like that, and why they swapped the personalities of some of the characters. Now, I actually did use this in the video, but then I deleted it because I got tired of editing the video because I probably have ADHD. So I just decided to delete the entire personality part because I am a fucking dog shit person. A dog shit YouTuber, that's what I meant to say. Why is my voice so shaky? Why am I nervous? This is just opening a Bubsy book. What is going on? Anyway, it's very cool. I think my favorite art that they've posted is this one, where they're hanging around the Christmas tree and it's all the different Bubsies. I like that a lot. I don't know why. But overall, very cool. Now, with the game, this is Bubsy 40. This is the actual game. It's only on the Switch 2, I think, which is something... My hands are, like, fucking shaking. What is going on? Anyway, this is Bubsy. It's really cool. Open it up. You get the Why the fuck is Luigi's Mansion in here? Where's the game? Where's my game? Oh my god, put it over here. Oh shit. Okay, that's the actual game. This is Bubsy 40, the actual game. And you also have a manual. What is even in here? I actually haven't not seen what this is, but it shows all the enemies, everyone. It's a classic manual where it tells you the controls and gives you lore. I don't know why they stopped doing manuals, probably because it's too expensive or something. That's probably it. You get notes for if you're stuck on Bubsy. If you're stuck on level 1, you can write a note saying how much you fucking suck at the game. But that's the entire thing of Bubsy 40. This is 40. This is Bubsy 40. Yeah.
Overall, if you couldn't tell by now, I really liked this game. It was very, very good. I think the update to Bubsy's design was fantastic. All the personality of every character is fun and the writing is very witty. The gameplay is incredibly fun for a platformer. The levels are varied, for me at least. The soundtrack is amazing, and they really did do a good job of handling this IP. They gave it their utmost respect that the franchise finally deserved after all these years. And I really am looking forward to where they go next with this IP, or whatever happens with this IP. Maybe we'll get a bad game next or something, who knows. But that is it for Bubsy 4D and all of Bubsy. I am never talking about this franchise again, or I'm gonna open up my fridge, take every single thing out, and just hide in there for the rest of my life.